No Morlock, spurned of Boethia and king of curses. An age ago, a cult of elves left the Somerset Isles, abandoning their kin to follow Veloth, a pathetic tool of Boethia. Trinimac confronted Boethia for this trespass and was challenged to battle. Trinimac was about to strike a mighty blow when Mephala appeared and stabbed him in the back. As Trinimac knelt, wounded by Mephala's treachery, Boethia gloated and cast a terrible ritual to scar and twist his appearance, then cast him to a place of choking air and ash. Trinimac, enraged by his failure, was reborn in blood as he sliced open his own chest, tearing the shame from his spirit. Morlock, the god of curses, rose from the ash and cursed Boethia for his malice. On that day, Morlock spoke the code to his faithful and swore vengeance against those who would break it. Do not steal, do not kill your own kin, do not attack without cause. Those who break these rules must pay the blood price. And thus, the Orcs were born of blood, the blood of Morlock. The Prince of Treachery, Boethia, in collusion with the Prince of Murder and Lies, spun a tale so vile that this clash would be recognised eternally as Trinimac's shame and Malacath's corruption. There is honour in defeat, and there is honour in fighting fair when your enemies engage in foul play, but there is no honour you can salvage from complete humiliation. You see, according to Boethia and the Web Spinner, Trinimac wasn't just bested in battle. No, he was eaten alive by Boethia. The beloved warrior god of the elves was transformed in Boethia's bowels, and when she relieved herself of this feast, Malacath emerged. This revolting creation was born from excrement, and no god could recover from such an abasement. This story, whether literal or a cruel falsehood, would stain Malacath's reputation forever. A common theme with Daedric Princes is power, and I don't mean rankings of who would win in an arm wrestle, or who is the most nefariously, despicably dastardly. I simply mean they are validated and motivated by the fact that they are better than lesser Daedra, and most certainly better than mortals. That explains how powerful entities like Merid Nunda could just force their way into a place among the Daedric Princes. She could construct a realm for herself, and didn't take no for an answer. Meridia answered the disapproval of the other princes with defiance, and it worked. But what happens when a Daedra lord isn't respected or taken seriously by their kin? What happens when they are condemned to a crude realm of ash and choking air? We saw through Meridia, a prince with Daedric origins, just how unwelcoming the Daedric princes can be, even when the rival is worthy. But the topic of today's video is a prince whose very existence and appearance is synonymous with shame, revulsion personified, a corruption of something once noble and honourable, defecated, left with not a shred of pride nor dignity. He is Malacath, the lord of the ostracised and of the spurned. Hey guys, it's Drew the Daedrologist here, and welcome back to FudgeMuppet. We've almost run out of Daedric Princes to study, and now that we're down to the dregs, it seems fitting to focus on the entity considered by his kin to be the dregs of Oblivion. Were I to ask most Daedra worshippers about Malacath, they would say it's a waste of time, like sending an artist to paint a rendition of the Imperial sewers. But in this video, we're going to learn why Malacath is one of the most fascinating Daedra lords, one worthy of your reverence. Let's start off with the basics. Who is Malacath? Malacath is the patron of the downtrodden. He is the keeper of the sworn oath, and of the bloody curse. He is one of the two Daedric princes to come from Daedric origins, alongside Meridia. Whether he was truly eaten or simply deceived, Malacath was formerly called Trinimac, the warrior spirit. Trinimac was believed to be the strongest Atada to wander Nirn during the Dawn and Malefic eras. When Trinimac and Boethia clashed, two mortal races were created. Boethia had encouraged the Chimera to break off from the early Aldmer, though Trinimac had endeavoured to stop them. In consuming Trinimac, Boethia freed the Chimera from his influence, and in corrupting the warrior spirit, Malacath and subsequently the entirety of the Orcish people were born. In his own words, Malacath claims the idea that he was eaten is far too literal-minded. But the damage was done, and the former elven hero was now resentful and enraged. To add another layer of confusion, some orcs, known by most as the Cult of Trinomac, outright deny these claims, saying that Malacath is an unrelated demon, attempting to trick the orcs into believing Trinomac was defeated by Boethia. A lot of mental gymnastics is required to believe the teachings of the Trinomac cult. They say that Trinomac fooled Boethia into believing he was corrupted by his passage through Boethia, when he in fact absorbed some of Boethia's strength and passed it on to his followers. In this way, the Orsimer can be seen as improved elves. To most orcs, this is a pipe dream, and Malacath is their true patron. Trinomac's most devout followers, members of the early Aldmer race, were transformed along with their god, and the term Orsimer is Elven for pariah folk. With all of this in mind, it should come as no surprise when I say that the other Daedric princes do not consider Malacath to be one of them. But this works in his favour, as it perfectly aligns with his sphere. He doesn't care for much, but when it comes to the ostracised, he is a force to be reckoned with, a formidable patriarch. His children may hail from any race, but for the most part he protects the orcs. After all, they are inherently cursed and seen as outcasts, just like him. Ironically, many of the values Malacath espouses are closely tied to Boethia's sphere. If you saw my video on this prince, you'll know that, beyond deceit and treachery, Boethia's utility to the Chimera people was the tenet of getting good, of overcoming adversity, of becoming eternal champions. This is strikingly similar to what Malacath represents. He tests physical weakness, he encourages displays of power in combat, he believes the strongest should lead the people, and he bolsters his followers' resolve, willing them to be resilient in the face of subjugation. Boethia says life is a test for the Chimera, and no group is put to the test more than Malacath and his followers. A key distinction, however, is that Boethia's get-good policy is brutal, while Malacath is protective of his people, and vindictive in the face of slights. These values take shape in the Code of Malacath, the doctrine by which most Orcish societies live. There are 6 tenets: respect for forging and blacksmithing, the traditional roles of a clan's chief and his wives, the tradition of selection of a new chief through challenge and combat, the custom that one who commits a crime must pay the blood price to the victim or the victim's relatives, the requirement that insults to honour must be avenged, and finally, recognition that to die in combat pleases Morlock. You need only wander the wilderness of Skyrim to see firsthand just how much of an influence Malacath has over the Orcs. You won't find a race more distrusting of others, and unless you're an Orc, you probably won't ever see the inside of one of their strongholds. When they enter battle, their unshakable courage and unflinching endurance is indicative of their faith in the Code. As for their wedding ceremonies, well, Orcs traditionally hold them at midnight. Subverting trends and traditions of regular men and mer is their specialty. The internal politics of each Orcish stronghold is also immensely cutthroat. Orc society is based on polygamy. A stronghold's tribe is controlled by a chieftain, who is the literal alpha male. No other males are permitted to take wives or father children. The chieftain is replaced by whichever one of his sons grows strong enough to challenge and kill him. The strength of a tribe, and the favour granted to it by Malacath, depends heavily on the personal strength of the chieftain. When an Orc defies the Code of Malacath, their crimes are not punishable by incarceration. Imprisonment in many ways is a roadblock to rehabilitation and overcoming failures. Instead, the culprit faces their victim, paying for their crimes with their blood. If an Orc becomes a victim, their honour is sullied, and they get to decide how much blood is spilled to right the wrongs. This custom is called the blood price. Orcish strength and stature can largely be chalked up to the fact that only the strongest may breed. This patriarchal system inevitably breeds descent from rival males, but the outcome is simple. A weak male challenger will perish, while the strongest becomes the new patriarch, the new bearer of the strongest seed. And women are not exempt from physical tests either. They are expected to fight, hunt and smith, contributing to the prosperity of the tribe. All in all, Orcish culture is far from egalitarian, but you better believe they're a mighty race, with little to no deadweight. Such is the will of Malacath. Malacath has 3 Daedric artifacts. The first is called Scourge. Forged from sacred ebony in the files of Fickle Dire, this powerful mace attracts the attention of many warriors. The caveat is that Malacath made the weapon exclusively for use by mortals. A Daedra-wielding scourge will immediately be banished to the void. It will also banish a Daedra hit by the weapon to the void. As a result, the weapon is considered to be a bold defender of the friendless, especially for those being harassed by the forces of Oblivion. It's fitting for Malacath to create such an artifact. He is not an entity keen on trusting others, and he is especially vigilant in the face of Daedra, considering his origin story. His second artifact is called the Helm of Oren Bearclaw, or the Helm of Carag-Grokar, if you ask the prince himself. This helm is an enchanted skull with the power to enhance the wearer's agility and endurance. Judging by Malacath's actions, the artifact was likely created to serve as a prize for worthy warriors. However, Oren Bearclaw had taken credit for the heroic deeds of his friend, the orc named Carag-Grokar. As an act of vengeance, Malacath sent the Nerevarine to end Oren's bloodline. The final artifact and the most renowned of these artifacts is called Volendrung. This hammer of might was actually forged by the Dwemer clan Rorken, but it has since become associated with the Prince of the Spurned. This is the very same hammer thrown by Rorken across Tamriel, and is the namesake for the city of Volenfell and the province of Hammerfell. Malacath's realm is known as the Ash Pit, and there's not an awful lot to say about it. As you know, the realm was given to the betrayed Trinomac as an insult, a constant reminder of the warrior god's defeat at the hands of Boethia. The realm consists only of dust, palaces of smoke, and vaporous creatures. Anguish, betrayal, and broken promises like ash fill the bitter air. The Ashen Forge sits at the centre of Malacath's own stronghold in the Ash Pit. For the Orcs that revere Malacath, the afterlife promises rewards of immortality, abundant food and drink, and constant battle deep within the Ashen Forge. It is also said that the Ash Pit bastion stretches endlessly across the plains, extending even behind the stars to Aetherius, granting access to every worthy Orc who crosses from this life into the next. In Malacath's stronghold, every Orc is a chief. Every chief has 1,000 wives, and every wife has 1,000 slaves to cater to their every need. The stronghold's walls rise 100 feet in the smoky sky, constructed of polished steel and worked iron. Inside the walls, stone keeps, iron towers, and massive longhouses surround the central square that houses the Ashen Forge. Malacath has done all he can to make the realm hospitable and desirable to his followers, but the Ash Pit will forever be considered a desolate, barren realm of ash. I must admit, at no point in my research did I ever feel the desire to attempt a journey to Malacath's realm. I've been to the Shivering Isles, I've been to Apocrypha and others. These realms are glorious, Daedric dreamscapes crafted to the finest specifications to please their overlords. And while some sources will claim that Malacath created his realm of Ash Pit, I think it's pretty clear that he didn't. And if he didn't do it willingly. His realm was born along with his great humiliation. Everything we've learned so far makes me wonder, why isn't Malacath the most hateful, the most bitter, the most destructive prince of all? Unlike many of his peers, Malacath has a list of grievances so long that he could fill 1,000 malcontent manifestos. Yes, he is vengeful, but neither him nor his followers are ever the aggressors. The Orcs guard their meagre territories, raiding when they must. But where's the full-scale holy war against worshippers of Boethia and Mephala? You'd think every Dunmer would inherently warrant Malacath's wrath. Yet he does nothing. Behind the convenient guise of barbarism, Malacath is anything but savage. Take the story of when he encountered the mad Prince Sheogorath, who had tricked an Orc warrior to butcher an innocent young Orcish girl. When Sheogorath summoned Malacath to see the grisly display, the prince was sombre. He said, "Why show me this, mad one? Do you take such pleasure in watching me grieve the murder of my children?" His guttural voice rumbled, and the patron of the Orsimer looked upon his counterpart with accusing eyes. And when Sheogorath proceeded to trick Malacath into carrying out justice on the warrior, giving the soul of the culprit to Sheogorath to torment in the asylums, unaware that the warrior too had been duped by the mad god, he was struck with remorse. Malacath's eyes went wide as he looked upon the severed head, seeping blood from its wound, but somehow kept alive. Its eyes wavered about wildly, trying to focus on the aspect of Malacath before it. The once proud eyes of the champion were choked with tears of grief, pain, and confused recognition. To his horror, Malacath recognised only now that the man he had killed was not only one of his Orsimer children, but very literally a son he had blessed an Orc maiden with years hence. For achingly long moments the two looked upon each other, despondent and shocked. Malacath began to stand, but knelt again, knowing he had irreversibly damned his own offspring to the realm of Sheogorath, and mourned his failure as the sound of his son's hoarse pleas faded into the frozen horizon. Malacath was led to believe that the culprit had been a murderous butcher, and in enacting justice he was avenging the slaughtered Orcish girl. Most Daedric princes consider themselves above the woes of mortals. Some relish in torturing them, some justify their cruelty in the name of a revolution or change, others are simply indifferent. But Malacath takes accountability. He abides by firm, unyielding rules, but he doesn't turn a blind eye to anything. And he certainly doesn't take the loss of mortal life lightly. Crime should be punished, and it is on the victim to carry out the sentence, not some hooded executioner. I once said that Boethiah endorses personal responsibility, and I stand by that, but Malacath takes that a step further. He asks his followers to be strong, to rise above adversity, but he also holds them accountable, making them carry out the punishment on those who wrong them, teaching them to be both stern and merciful. He is the Daedric personification of the Patriarch, a furious force of destruction to his enemies, but also a compassionate guardian to his kin. Malacath is a controlled beast. It's clear that beneath his intimidating demonic exterior, many of Trinamach's virtues still exist. So, if you find yourself cast aside by those around you, without a father figure, without an ally, maybe Malacath will protect you, and teach you never to leave assaults on your honour unanswered. And there you have it guys, my take on Malacath. I hope you enjoyed the video, thanks so much for watching. Once again, my name is Drew, and I'll see you next time.